Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. Thank you to each and every one of you that have subscribed already. It's been really cool seeing how this thing has grown throughout conference realignment. And please, if you haven't already, click subscribe. I have tons of conference realignment content coming at you left and right now. College football content. If you're a Big 12 fan specifically, I think you're really going to like what you find here on the channel. And I'm honest with you, if you like and comment on the video, it helps me out a lot. Gets the views up, helps out that YouTube algorithm. It's going to get you more content in return. And that's what makes college football great, is the passion of all of you fans, right? So I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let me have it. If you disagree, totally fine with it. Bring it to me. If you agree, let me know. And all of that does really help out. What we're talking about today is this Pac-12, Big 12 discussion that's been going on since Bob Bowlesby met with George Kliavkoff, the commissioner of the Pac-12, on Tuesday. Getting all my dates mixed up right now. I believe that was Tuesday. They met for 6 hours, supposedly. And now we have an update to that. It's just some comments made by a Pac-12 president. It's a blast from the past for me because my career covering Kansas State, which started about a decade ago, the university president at K-State back then was Kirk Schulz. He's now at Washington State and is a pretty powerful Pac-12 president. And I'm just taking the language from the Mercury News, the Bay Area news group that put out this article with some comments from Kirk Schulz. This is what he had to say. So this is him speaking on the topic of, hey, do we try and link up with the Big 12? Because a couple things had been discussed here. One option was a scheduling alliance between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. And the other, a solution that Bob Bowlesby floated was, hey, you could negotiate aggregated TV rights. So the Pac-12 and the Big 12 take their TV contracts, their TV rights, they negotiate together and sell that together as a package. And I'm here for anything creatively for both of these conferences, by the way, not just for the school I support and the Big 12, which obviously it looks great there, but I think the Pac-12 needs to be creative too. And they're getting left behind in revenue and obviously have not been on the strongest footing here recently. Now, what this is going to come down to is what Kirk Schulz really hit on here. He said, quote, if we add teams just to try to keep up with somebody else, but those teams don't grow our revenue base, do we really need to add them? And that is what the crux of the issue is going to be here for the Pac-12. Everybody wants to talk about expansion and they think about their school and their teams and what it can do for them, but this has to be mutually beneficial for both parties. Now, initially, I can understand how you might scoff at this if you're a Pac-12 fan and say, like, what are we really getting out of this with the Big 12? But again, I would caution you, Pac-12, look what happens when you're not aggressive. The Big 12 has been picked off by the SEC and now is in some flux. I think the Pac-12 needs to do something, and they also need to try and solidify themselves and keep the Big Ten from coming in to raid USC and company, USC, Oregon, Washington, whatever that pairing is going to be that's been rumored, right? So both sides really need something to happen. And here's some of the details on this. The Pac-12's latest payouts were $32.2 million per school. The Big 12 is at 38. So could this move make financial sense? Maybe. I mean, the Big 12 is at 38, but that obviously was with Texas and Oklahoma. Bob Bowlesby's already admitted the TV revenue basically goes down by half without Texas and Oklahoma. Then on the other hand, I mean, the Pac-12 far behind at $32 million there. They've also been hemorrhaging subscribers to the Pac-12 network. It's in some real trouble. There have been some massive layoffs going on at the Pac-12 network. So things are not good out there. Larry Scott did not do a whole lot of good for the Pac-12 there, especially toward the end of his tenure. For comparison, that $32 million for the Pac-12 is behind the SEC at 45 and the Big Ten at 56. So if we're looking at this and thinking about Kirk Schulz's comments, all right, does this make sense? Is it something that could work, them adding teams or pushing together some conglomeration of TV rights here, negotiating something together? The advantages of it, if you did form some super conference here, you could literally stretch from coast to coast, right? I mean, West Virginia, I guess I consider them like an East Coast school, but they're way out there. And then you'd be obviously all the way back to California on the opposite side. You'd be in every time zone. All of a sudden, the Pac-12 could get into the central time zone. You have Texas, by getting into the state of Texas, allows you to recruit Texas if you are schools out in the Pac-12 and you just have tons of inventory. I mean, if we're talking about the TV contract, you have tons of inventory and you have games that could literally go all day. You'd have some very good brands. I mean, USC, Oregon, Washington, that's providing a lot of it from the Pac-12. But Oklahoma State, I tell you what, sneaky school here. If you look at the TV numbers that Stuart Mandel put out there from The Athletic, Oklahoma State was pretty darn good. They were much higher than the rest of the, I guess, 8 that are left in the Big 12, the rest of the irate 8, whatever it is that you want to call them. Oklahoma State's TV numbers were pretty good. That still seems to be a brand that resonates on a national level with the winning that they have done. So you could have some pretty intriguing brands and some pretty intriguing matchups there. And it's definitely going to be more valuable to a TV partner than just one league or the other. But the question is it valuable enough that if you're then splitting the pot up 20 ways, it's going to be worth everybody's while? And that's really where you come to the disadvantages. 20, 16, I mean, whatever it might be. If you're talking about half of the Big 12 splintering off and going to the Pac-12 or some kind of full-on alliance like Kirk Schulz may have been talking about, does it work to then split up the pie? I don't know. Like, I think this is where it's a good sign that Bowlesby and Kleibkopf met for 6 hours, because it means that they're really discussing a lot of things and trying to take a lot of things creatively into account. We don't have full details on what happened there because neither, at least Bob Bowlesby I saw, was not going to talk about it afterwards. But it seems like there's some kind of conversation going, and that would tell me that at least the Pac-12 believes that something is there. And I'm coming at this now from a Big 12 perspective. Seems at least the Pac-12 believes there could be something there down the line. And I actually take another Kirk Schulz quote here as some optimism for me, and that is him talking about the SEC and how it's galvanized the rest of the college athletics world. So Schulz says, quote, "What the SEC has done is unify the other conferences in a way that nothing else could have in terms of working together. A lot of people now are very concerned about the predatory nature of the SEC. More presidents are talking. There's a lot of back and forth." So that's Kirk Schulz. Now, that makes me optimistic because I think that opens up more eyes. Like, that would make the Pac-12 be more willing to sit here and listen to the Big 12 right now. If it's, hey, we all need to come together and push back as much as we can against the SEC. I mean, look, let's be honest. The Big 12 and the Pac-12 merging together, nothing is going to beat the SEC. But if you can look at that and say, hey, there's a better chance we all survive together than each of us trying to splinter off and do our own thing and stay in our separate corners, I think that can be where this all comes together, right? You look at the SEC, the big bad SEC, the Big Ten. If the Big Ten is going to go try and raid the ACC or do something else and say, we need to stick together in some form or fashion to give ourselves a fighting chance against these a-holes in the SEC. So I actually really liked reading that quote from a Big 12 standpoint, and it makes me more optimistic. Bottom line, 6-hour meeting between the two commissioners. And now you have Pac-12 presidents, one of the more high-profile ones, and Kirk Schulz talking about this. I'm optimistic about where this could be headed, and I think this is very, very intriguing. All right, once again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. I would appreciate it a ton. I'm going to bring you every update I can on conference realignment here. Big 12 fans, college football fans, chime in. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. You think I'm crazy? Pac-12 fans, man, I would love to hear from you. Do you think, is this anything you're interested in at all? Do you believe in this helping out the stability of the Pac-12? Let me know. Like the video, comment. It all helps. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon.